Hi, my name is Jason Gorney. This is the briefing on Chicago's recycling program, prepared for Alderman John Arena of the 45th Ward. I would like to start with a brief overview of the problem. Chicago's current recycling rate has declined steadily since the program started in 2007, to where it is now at 8.8%. Some areas in Chicago, recyclable materials are neither collected properly nor disposed of due to mismanagement of the program, resulting in high costs and negative impacts on the environment. Many Chicagoans are not sure what to put into the blue bin, so they either avoid recycling altogether or they guess what to put in the blue bin.
In this graph, you can see how the recycling rate has steadily declined since the program started in 2007 with 17.80% to 8.81% in 2018. In this slide, the three images you see are examples of the struggles that residents deal with when trying to recycle.
Here's the key question that we should keep in mind as we move forward with this briefing.
When looking at the policy landscape for this issue, there are a couple of factors to consider. First, political factor. There have been increased attention on cities adopting green practices due to climate change and sustainability. For instance, recycling is an example of a green program because by recycling recyclable materials, there will be less reliance on oil used for making products and increase sustainability by reusing them and repurposing them into different products. Secondly, several aldermen from the City Council, including you, have expressed frustration with the Emanuel administration for mismanaging the recycling program, including its contract with the private haulers. The second factor to consider is economic. According to an investigative report, the city's contract with the private haulers has an annual cost of $12 million to handle recycling services in various parts of the city. When pressed about this, the Emanuel administration claimed that its contract saves city taxpayers $10 million per year. Prior to having the Blue Bin program, the city used to spend $200 million on the Blue Bag program, which ended in 2005 because it was the failure. The last factor to consider is social. Recycling plays a crucial role in the health of our environment. One of the materials that we commonly recycle is plastic. Plastic is used frequently by so many people and companies because it is inexpensive and durable. However, they are slow to degrade, so they are negatively impacting the environment long term. It was found that 22 million pounds of plastic flows into the Great Lakes each year, and half of that goes into Lake Michigan. Furthermore, a study has found that microplastic, that are tiny pieces of plastic that have degraded from larger plastic, can present health hazards for humans as well as marine life. The next part of the briefing I would like to focus on are the rationales for governmental intervention. I will start with market failures, specifically public good. Waste management failed to produce a socially optimal level of output. An investigative report found that the city pays waste management twice to drive routes covering the northwest side and south side and to accept the contaminated material into the waste management landfills. This defeats the purpose of the ordinance. Now I will be talking about governmental failure. First, the rules are too broad. Even though the ordinance was recently amended, it still has regulation that makes it difficult for the ordinance to be regulated, whether it is from educated Chicagoans to allowing private haulers like waste management to have some control over the process of collecting recyclable materials. Second component government failure is conflicting rules, where the city failed to do a comprehensive assessment of performance of the private haulers and Department of Street and Sanitation, and also failed to collect basic data as required by the ordinance. Private haulers also failed to be forthcoming with the process of recycling or how many blue cards were contaminated. These so-called rules were not in sync with each other, and that created misinformation and inaccurate data. The third component of government failure, regulatory capture. When the recycling program was created to act in the public interest by increasing sustainability and bringing about a greener lifestyle, and unintentionally advanced the private haulers' priorities over the recycling programs, was created a net loss for Chicago. Moving forward, I would like to focus on the key stakeholders in this issue: the City Council, the Mayor's Office, Department of Streets and Sanitation, Department of Public Health, Waste Management, and Lakeshore Recycling Systems. Now I would like to talk about the policy goals for the status quo and the three alternative policies: political feasibility, effectiveness, equity, and impact on the problem.
Here are the ranking point system for the goals, ranging from 5 with very likely, low cost, to 1, very unlikely, very high cost. Now let's take a look at the status quo. Chicago Recycling Ordinance was amended once in 20 years. The recycling program is privatized. Private haulers are required to file monthly reports. Recycling bins are tagged with non-recyclable materials and improperly placed and labeled grossly contaminated. If you take a quick look at the map, you can see how the Chicago is divided into several zones that are covered by the 2 private haulers and Department of Streets and Sanitation.
For political feasibility, the cost of the status quo would be ranked as very low. 1 point. The city paid Waste Management twice the dry routes, cover the northwest side and south side, and to accept the contaminated material into Waste Management landfills. This in addition to the city paying Lakeshore Recycling System, as well as funding DSS to carry out recycling services. Stakeholder support for the status quo would rank as low. 2 points. Several members of the City Council, including you, have expressed frustration with the ordinance. For effectiveness goal, flexibility under the status quo would be ranked as low. 2 points. Flexibility is limited because the recycling service is carried out by 2 private haulers and DSS. This fragmentation makes it difficult to have a unified plan that would allow for more flexibility to make the program more efficient. Increasing recycling rate would be ranked as very low. 1 point. The status quo has allowed the recycling rate to decline since 2007. Equity under status quo would be ranked as medium. 3 point. All neighborhoods, including low-income neighborhoods, have access to the recycling program and are served by private haulers or DSS. It should be noted that many low-income individuals live in apartments which may only have 1 recycling bin for the entire unit. The education of recycling remains questionable despite the city's intent to educate residents about how to recycle properly. Impact on the problem would be ranked as medium. 3 point. The current program in place is not making a large impact on the problem as intended. Now let's take a look at policy alternative 1, which is to reform recycling program with more accountability placed on a single private hauler. This alternative would call for the City Council to amend the recycling ordinance to end the managed competition and to designate 1 private hauler to be responsible for the entire recycling program.
For the political feasibility goal, the cost of alternative 1 will be ranked as high 4 points. If 1 private hauler was responsible for the recycling program, this could save costs in the long run, and it would fulfill Mayor Emanuel's original goal to have 1 private hauler be responsible for the program. This kind of model can be found with the success of San Francisco recycling program with its 8% diversion rate. San Francisco attributed its success with an exclusive partnership with waste management company Ecology. They found that working with 1 company isn't an administrative burden. It makes it possible to collaborate on long-term goals. Secondly, stakeholder support for alternative 1 would be ranked as high. Many aldermen, including you, are frustrated with how the recycling program is not working as it should be and want reform. You also mentioned that you want Street and Sanitation Commissioner John Tolley to be more transparent with the recycling program and place stronger oversight on the private hauler. For the effectiveness goal, flexibility for alternative 1 would be ranked as very high, 5 points, due to more control being placed under 1 private hauler. The private hauler can have more flexibility to work within the ordinance to ensure the program is a success, as well as determining the best course of action to educate residents how to recycle properly. For example, in San Francisco, the city worked with Ecology because they knew that in order to change people's behavior, different programs were implemented, such as fast door-to-door communication campaigns that would develop to raise awareness of waste and educating citizens on how to recycle. Because the city has a large diverse population, they use different languages as well as pictograms to help educate citizens. Lastly, increasing recycling rate would be ranked as high. With additional oversight and new reform to the ordinance, the rate will increase. Equity under Alternative 1 would be ranked as medium, 3 point. All wards would fall under the responsibility of a single private hauler and will carry out recycling services as well as an educational component to ensure residents know how to recycle properly. Impact on the category will be ranked as high, 4 points due to implementation of additional oversight, proposed reform, and contracting with a single private hauler. Now let's take a look at policy alternative 2, which is to not renew contract with private haulers, making DSS responsible for picking up recycling. This alternative would call for the City Council to amend the ordinance to end the managed competition and to repeal Article 4 under Title 11 in the ordinance to terminate the contract with the private haulers and end privatization of the recycling program. A new amendment will be added to the ordinance that will place responsibility of the recycling service solely on the Department of Streets and Sanitation. For the political feasibility goal, the cost for Alternative 2 will be ranked as medium, 3 points, because the contract that is ending in July 2019, the city can undo the privatization of the program, and DSS will be solely responsible. Stakeholder support for Alternative 2 will be ranked as high, 4 points. Aldermen are looking for reform to the program, including oversight and accountability. For example, DSS can be audited and held accountable because it is a city department, not a private vendor. For the effectiveness goal, flexibility under Alternative 2 will be ranked as medium, 3 points. DSS will have flexibility to work within the ordinance to ensure the program is a success, as well as determining the best course of action to educate residents how to recycle correctly within their budget. However, it is unclear if a publicly run program can be sustainable economically. Many cities have recycling programs that are privatized for lower cost and increased efficiency. However, one city was found they have a publicly run program that was successful for a short while, and that was in Plano, Texas. However, they did eventually privatize. But first, when they were publicly run, Plano ran an operation like a private program. According to a sustainability and environmental service manager, the city managed their department like a business. To be more specific, they operated as an enterprise fund, so the department is very competitive in the market. And it meant the city official knew what the programs cost. The Plano's official regularly compared the cost of services that the city provides such as recycling to similar nearby city. Next, increasing recycling rate would be increase of medium 3 point. Evidence was unclear if a publicly run program would increase recycling rate. Equity under Alternative 2 would be ranked as medium, 3 points. All wards will fall under the responsibility of DSS that will carry out the recycling services as well as the educational component to ensure residents know how to recycle properly. Additionally, resources will be devoted equally to increase participation in areas whether it's low or high income. Impact on the problem will be ranked as medium, 3 points. This is attributed to implementation of oversight by the City Council, proposed reforms, and not having a contract with private hauler. But the question remains if it would satisfy the goal. The mismanagement of the program will end if done correctly by the city. The program will run efficiently and work the way it's supposed to, as evidenced with Plano's recycling program. Now let's take a look at policy alternative 3, which is to repeal the Chicago recycling ordinance. The alternative would call for the City Council to repeal Chapter 11-5 Reduction Recycling Program in the City Ordinance, thus ending the city's recycling program. Cost of Alternative 3 would be ranked as low, 2 points. Without a recycling program, more services would be needed to handle extra loads of trash that would not be recycled anymore. This would take up valuable space in their landfills. Other cities have repealed the recycling program recently due to being too costly. Stakeholder support for Alternative 3 would be ranked as very low, 1 point. The City Council is for a recycling program, and Chicago is considered to be a green city.
Flexibility for alternative 3 would be ranked as very low, 1 point. With no recycling ordinance, Chicago is no longer burdened with carrying out recycling services and educated residents. Increasing recycling rate would be ranked as very low. Equity under alternative 3 would be ranked as very low, 1 point. Pollution will increase in low-income neighborhoods compared to higher-income neighborhoods. For instance, South Side versus North Side. Higher-income residents on the North Side will have the financial means to find a way to recycle, whereas lower-income residents on the South Side will lack the resources for that. Impact on the problem would be ranked as very low, 1 point. By repealing the ordinance, Chicago will no longer be burdened with being responsible for recycling items such as plastic, which are harmful to the environment. Recyclable materials will take up valuable space in the landfills and undermine Chicago's status as a green city. In this side-by-side analysis, you can see how all the points are broken down by the goals and impact categories. For static row and the 3 alternatives, the points were added up, and alternative 1 had the highest point total with 24. Based on the side-by-side analysis, alternative 1 wishes to reform recycling program with more accountability placed on a single private hauler, should move forward as a policy recommendation to address the issue with the Chicago's recycling program. We can do this by utilizing the San Francisco recycling model, by forming an exclusive partnership with a private hauler, ending the so-called managed competition, having stronger oversight and accountability by the city council, and choosing a private vendor that will work efficiently with the city to provide strong recycling services to the city.